All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's broadcast. I'm your host for today's race in Stint Year 13. Well, today's broadcast of the race in Stint Year 13 is we're about to get underway for Stint 2 of SEC's Road America Enduro. For those of you who missed Stint 1, it was very interesting. Roughly the first 40 minutes were in the rain. Then the track got really slick and greasy for about the middle 40 minutes. And then the last 40 minutes was nice and dry, although the sky was still a little bit gray. Made for some very interesting scenarios. It was didn't do unfolded, fighting neck and neck for the top position, and the final overtake was made with just a minute left in the running. Dindu, whose team was a relatively distant third in standings, are going to be able to close significantly with that result. There was also a three-way fight for what ended up being fifth overall as well that also went down to the very end. These SEC Enduro races are looking at slightly smaller fields than what we're used to seeing. Normally, these SEC races have about 18 to 21 drivers, but today's event only seems to have about 13 to 14 entrants. That means that throughout the majority of the day today, you should be expecting to see a lot more drivers running where their actual pace is rather than being held up fighting for large chunks of the day. Also, strategy was kind of all over the place in the prior run. Drivers tried to figure out when to make their pit stops to go from one set of wet tires to another. ZR Villa, who ended up finishing fifth, did not make a single pit stop in the first 40 minutes of the race and still pulled out a top 5 finish. So there was a lot of strategy wildness in Stint 1. Here in Stint 2, it's expected to be nice and dry pretty much from flag to flag. We're also likely going to see nighttime fall onto the circuit after about 30 or so minutes into this stint. So this stint is going to more than likely end in dry but night conditions, which will make keeping eyes on the field a little bit more difficult today. So do keep that in mind as well. Excuse me. In addition, several of the drivers, such as EXR Unfolded, are going to be going back to back. So Unfolded is nice and comfy with the car and how the track is, but he's going to basically be asking to do 4 hours of driving in approximately a 5-hour period. So that can definitely wear him out. So possibly, although we'd hope not, he'll have a little bit of a performance fall off later in the event. We're looking at about the same size of the field for today's event. We're looking at about a 13 driver grid. Unless Arkina ends up running, but I don't think Arkina is running this stint. We're looking at roughly a 5-driver grid for today's event. In Stint 1, there were 7 different manufacturers that finished in the top 7 positions. Not 7 different cars, 7 different manufacturers. There weren't like 2 different BMWs at the front. So very interesting to consider that as well. Just an incredible amount of parity now that a lot of the teams that are just trying to sum it out in the Mercedes GT3s, now a lot of them seem to have not shown up today. So everything opens up a bit. All right, they're going to get the grid ordered up here. We're going to try and knock out another ad break if we can before they get running proper here at Road America. And then we'll be flying high, wide, and handsome, hopefully to the end of the broadcast today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Road America as they are currently getting the grid set up. So NDL Micro will be your pole setter, followed by EXR Unfolded, then NDL Togo is also going back-to-back. NDL Daniel is the highest of your BMW entries. Then you'll have ZR Crizzle taking over it for that fifth place finishing machine. NWR Shadow will be in 6th. Then Matt Clem will be starting 7th. NWR Bradders will be starting 8th. ZR Harry Granke is doing back-to-back, will be starting 9th, followed by NWR Hyphen in another one of the Mustangs, then P1R Habit and NWR Arkina. So 3 of your Fords are all starting alongside each other. Clem is basically the exception. P1R Coastal is going to be starting back there 13th. And ESV Pipes, ESV finally showing up here for Stint 2. Now they're going to be so far behind on overall distance that they won't be able to fight for overall Stint win, but he'd love to try and steal a Stint victory. As the field comes down here to the green flag once they go underneath the Sargento Bridge on the back straightaway. This Ferrari went from pole, led most laps in one Stint 1. Can they do it again in Stint 2 as they are underway once again at Road America? Top 3 immediately start breaking away from the rest of the field. Unfolded, starting in 2nd instead of 3rd, has a little bit better of an initial start, is able to keep Toad behind just for the moment. But it is NDL Micro who's the wild card here. He is at the front, usually hasn't gotten results as good as what Dindu has throughout the season. Can he turn that around today? Unfolded runs right behind. Doesn't look like he's able to make a move right yet, at least not right now. Toad just a little bit farther back here in 3rd position. Another thing to consider, considering that this Stint is going to be in the dry, everyone is going to be making up a lot more distance. So if you have a relatively good run here, you could potentially outrun you or your teammates' bad run back in Stint number 1. Stint 2, because of the overall distance, is what decides what team wins an event. Overall distance is incredibly important. This will be the most impactful Stint out of the 3 today. We see Unfolded coming along the inside after Micro slid wide into Kate side by side through Canada corner. He's going to force the Ferrari a little bit wide. Could not complete the overtake though. Side by side now through the following corner. Oh, and Unfolded is really wide, and Unfolded will fall back into 3rd position. Mind up losing that to NDL Daniel now. There's nothing that Unfolded can do. He does have the torque to get out, but he is now 3rd in this 4-car train. Riding on board with Daniel as they complete the first lap here at Road America. Nose to tail for the top 4 positions. Toad, does he have what it takes to make a move on Micro in the Ferrari? 4 different manufacturers in the top 4 positions. Micro really wide, coming out of turn 1. Toad is going to go to the inside, side by side for a lead. Aston Martin chucks the Ferrari wide. The Dodge tries to follow, but he gets held up, and now the BMW looks to the inside of the Dodge. So a change for a lead, and maybe a change for a 3rd as well. You can see how much slower the Dodge is in a straight line. There's just nothing you can do to fight back. Drag race. The Dodge might be able to go a little bit deeper under braking. Will he be able to get 3rd place position back off of that? No, there's just nothing he can do. The Dodge just does not have any pace in dry circumstances, and Unfolded falls to 4th. And in just a little bit more than a lap. Micro has slipped to 2nd behind Toad. Remember, Toad opened up a gigantic lead trying to run some alternate strats earlier in the first Stint. However, strategy didn't work out, and he had a few self-inflicted mistakes, and it's a bunch of time he's trying to outdrive that now. Real quickly, let's look at the tire wear and fuel numbers. Toad is already at 14.7% on the front right. Micro is at he's at 15% on the rear left. Daniel, who is 3rd, is at 15.7 on the front left, and Unfolded, who is 4th, is at 15%. So all 4 of these drivers on the same tire compound. I imagine they're all on softs right now, considering how quickly they're running through it. They're already at 15%. They've not even completed 2 full laps. Again, soft tires are expected to only last about 10 minutes here. Unfolded muscles his way by Daniel. Daniel left the door open just a bit, and Unfolded just hip-checked his way through. Looking real quickly at Bradders, the highest of your Chevys right now. He's at 18% after was really only 2 full laps. Shadow, who runs in 6th. Another Chevy, 18%. Is everyone starting on soft tires? That might be the strat. 19% for Haya Cranky. For Matt Clem, 20%. I think everyone might have started this stint on the soft tires. Yeah, you have to go back to ZR Crizzle in 9th to find someone who is on the medium tire setup here. So everyone who started at least is trying to run 10 laps before pit, well, 5 laps before pitting, basically. So it is Toad, Micro, Unfolded, Daniel, Bradders. Bradders is honestly caught, Unfolded, and Daniel. Unfolded to the inside, and Unfolded can't complete the overtake, and now here comes the Chevy. He's going to try to make it 3 wide. No, he has enough sense not to do that. Unfolded on the inside is going to try and trap Daniel on the outside. Daniel gets a little bit of touch from Shadow, and now Daniel is going to hammer his positions and is going to fall all the way back to the 6th spot. Might even end up losing that to Cranky, depending on how that goes. So now it's Bradders and Shadow, the two of the Chevys here, who are tucked up behind the Dodge. Looking farther back at Pipes here in 11th. Pipes is likely going to be running a medium tire compound in the early stints, trying to go long and get some cleaner air late in the running here. The top 2 of Toad and Micro, though, have absolutely pulled on the rest of the field. The fight is for 3rd at the moment. It is Unfolded, Bradders, and Shadow. And already Shadow has distance penalties. And we'll start looking at distance penalties a little bit later once we're a bit deeper into the run. Bradders goes for a giant dive, can't complete the overtake. The car slid out from behind him, and Unfolded just barely has enough torque to stay ahead. But you can see the Dodge is absolutely swarmed. Every other car is so much faster than the Dodge in the straight line. And yes, the Dodge has a massive advantage in the corners and initial acceleration, but you have 3 long straightaways here that just work to absolutely destroy anything that EXR Unfolded can do. When someone else is in your draft and you're in the Dodge, there's just not a single thing you can do when someone else decides they want to make a move. And speaking of which, here comes Bradders. Bradders going to go around the outside, Unfolded holding a tighter inside line, hoping that will get him back ahead of the Chevrolet. That is not the case. Just in one single corner, even though he had the ideal lane, the straight line speed was so massive, there's nothing to do. Shadow is saying, I'm not even going to bother. He gets rammed, Unfolded up the tailpipe, but in the process upsets himself and ends up losing a bunch of time. Unfolded, though, falls to 4th position once again here at Road America. And look at this fight. Now Shadow has been pushed back into the grasp of Daniel and Haya Cranky here. Side by side for a 5th position. Shadow inside, Daniel outside, Shadow's wide, Daniel tries to cross over, but there's Cranky right there. No, that's not Cranky, that's Clem, isn't it? No, that's not, that's Cranky. I saw it right. 2 different BMWs fighting it out in this 3-way fight for the 5th position now. Daniel trying to figure out a way by this Chevrolet. The Chevys are basically the exact opposite of Dodges. They have a ridiculous amount of straight line speed advantage, but they are awful everywhere else around the circuit. And now Daniel has muscled his way by. Haya Cranky goes by, and now we see Shadow is going to go ahead and try to stabilize in 7th, just ahead of Matt Clem right now. At the front, it is Ferrari on Aston Martin. Ferrari looks to the inside, not going to commit to it in the Canada corner, not this time, but it is a drag race between Dodge and Chevrolet for 3rd position. Unfolded going around the long way, and Bradders is having a big slide on acceleration out, will use the position. He's already at 35% tire wear. Unfolded, on the other hand, is up to 34% as well. Toad and Micro drag race down the front straightaway. It looks like Micro has a straight line speed advantage for now and will complete the overtake on Toad at the end of the straight. So Ferrari goes back to the lead. 2 of the 3 cars that we saw fighting for the first third of Stint 1 are now fighting for a lead here in Stint 2. And the draft is so powerful in this game that if Micro doesn't have a perfect run coming onto each of these straights, Toad is going to have the amazing ability to just pull right alongside and compromise Micro's run into these corners. This time, though, while Toad has the draft, he can't really get alongside. He looks to the outside, can't do anything, will just fall in line behind Micro for now. And for third, Unfolded just barely keeps it ahead of Bradders. Look at this fight, though. For fifth, it is Daniel and Cranky going back and forth for a position. And then Shadow and Matt Klim have kind of fallen off back there in 7th and 8th position. That Chevy is just so overweight and struggles so much in that turn number 6 there, going under the Corvette bridge. So the top 8 cars all kind of peeling off into groups of 2, and then before that you get into this bigger group: Chrysalid, Habits, Pipes, and then Arkina, all fighting on top of each other. Hyphen and Coastal a little bit farther back. All these drivers, I believe, are on medium tire compounds, running an alternate strategy right now. All right, for a lead, it is Micro who leads, but Toad looks inside's not going to commit to it. Not this time, though. So a pair of different NDL drivers leading at the head of the field here early on. 44% tire wear on the left rear for Micro already. For Toad, he is at 46% on the left front. They don't have a lot of fuel left. I imagine these two can probably stay out for another 2 laps. So assuming that these drivers are on the soft tire compounds, which I believe is what they are running, you can go about 15 or so minutes on the softs. So if you just ran all softs all day long, this would be a 7-stop affair. Medium tires, if you're looking at 15 minutes on the softs, the mediums are able to go usually about 50% more. So the mediums would probably be able to go about 22 minutes. So that'd be about 11 laps. While the softs are going about 7 to 8 laps. So keep that in mind as this goes on, assuming those numbers work out right. Toad gets a big draft, but Micro, I don't think Micro moved under braking. It's just Micro broke a significant amount earlier than Toad, and Toad just ran into the rear wing of the Ferrari. Not able to do anything yet. If Micro has a moment that he slides off, though, Toad will be right there, able to capitalize. Unfolded, despite fighting the car that is basically his exact opposite, is doing a decent job hanging on to third. Has there been a change in the lead? Yes, there has. Micro went off just as we clicked away, and now Toad goes back to the front here at Road America. And Toad is already trying to open the gap on Micro. It looks like Micro's just not had a good run coming out of the carousel either, and now that Aston has seen the numbers open up in his favor. He has pretty much destroyed any chance of that Ferrari catching his draft down the straightaway here. Now, if Micro puts together a good sector 3, he might be able to catch Toad's draft, but otherwise that could be fight decided. Meanwhile, for third, it is still nose to tail between Unfolded and Bradders. Unfolded in a car that is great in the corners and great acceleration. Bradders in a car that is awful in the corners, but amazing in the straight lines. Unfolded has track position. Can he keep Bradders behind as they go down the straights again? Not making a move, at least not yet, not this time, although he gets within 20 feet under braking, and he misses the corner. He goes wide in turn 1. That means Unfolded's able to hold a nice, cleaner line, able to open the gap just a little bit in his favor. Bradders will have another chance to really storm down on him here on the back straightaway. And already we have our first driver pitting. That is Matt Klim, who's already made his first stop and put on brand new boots. So he didn't even make it 15 full minutes. And remember, the first about minute was run under caution. They don't go green until they get to the Sargento Bridge. But Klim couldn't even go 15 full minutes before burning up his tires. So it's not looking good for that Ford Mustang engine. Right now, not a lot of drivers have distance penalties yet, but it's still early here. Top 2 seem to be relatively stable right now, but what are their tires looking at? Well, look at that, 62% on the left front for Toad. For Micro in the Ferrari that is following, he is at 61.8% on the left rear. So it seems like it's an overall Ferrari issue that the rear tires are the ones wearing faster than the fronts, and they are the exception. Everyone else is dealing with front tire wearing out first. Third place is EXR Unfolded, who has really pulled away from Bradders this lap. He is at 60.4%, so he's doing a little bit better on tire life. Then you have fourth place NWR Bradders. He's at 64% already. Fifth place is NDL Daniel. I imagine we're going to see everyone in the top 8 hit this time by here. And yep, sure enough, Togue is coming in. Micro, Unfolded, Bradders. I imagine this trio of Daniel, Shadow, and Cranky will all pit as well, and that will give the race lead to ESV Pipes, who is the highest running now of all the medium tire cars. He will easily take over the Stint lead here. I think he's going to lead at the line. Yes, he will lead at the line. So ESV Pipes is your third different driver to lead today. 45%. So again, soft tires seem to be able to go 15 minutes, maybe a little less, but about 15 minutes. The medium tires should be able to go about 22 minutes. You do the math, it's a 120-minute race. If you can just make the mediums go 20 minutes throughout the time, that would be a 5-stop affair. And if you could pull out an extra lap each time, you basically cut out 5 more laps if you so choose. You could make it a 5-stop if you're doing a pipe strategy. And the last stint, you could, if you want to make it 22 minutes instead of 20 minutes for your mediums all the way through, you can make it a 5-stop, and your final stop, you can throw on soft tires instead of mediums. So that is, I could imagine, very easily being the winning strategy, especially because Road America, you lose so much time in the pits. So Unfolded has actually ended up ahead of NDL Togue and NDL Micro after it was all said and done with. I think the big thing that helped is that Unfolded is burning through his tires slightly slower than these other cars that he's fighting with, and he had a little bit more fuel in the tank, so he was able to short build just a bit, and now he is ahead of all these drivers who have made their first stop already. Togue second, Micro third. Then you have to go back quite a ways until you get to Bradders. Then his Shadow is even farther back. Daniel, then Matt, Clem, and High Cranky. Remember, Clem pitted a lap earlier, so he's got fresher tires, but he is at a tire disadvantage basically through the rest of this event. Slides right in front of the BMW, very nearly spins out in front, but Cranky is not worried. He puts the power down to try and pull alongside, trying to get a draft off the BMW M8. Cranky goes really deep under braking and just barely puts himself ahead of that Mustang. All right, P1R Coastal now is pitting. So he went one lap farther on the tires. So you can go up to about 18 minutes on the tires, probably closer to 17 minutes. But our 3 leaders, I believe, all started this race on the medium tire compound. Hyphen might actually be on the hards. He's not even at 50% yet. No, he's probably on the mediums as well. So our top 3 all on mediums. Pipes and Crizold both started on the mediums. Remember, Crizold's teammate ZR Villa was on a radically alternate strategy and somehow pulled it off to come home 5th. Crizold would like to try and build on that. Pipes, they know that they are not in contention for winning this stint, as the ESV team did not enter a car for stint 1. So no shot at winning the stint overall. But they are trying to keep themselves in some sort of contention for the championship fight here. This is the 6th out of 10 events in the SEC championship, and this is the 2nd time that the ESV team has basically been torpedoed. Last time it was at Silverstone. One of their interns, despite dominating the entire time, had disconnected in the last 25 minutes. This time it was just not even entering in the first stint. Crizold continues to run right in Pipe's tire tracks. But Crizold already has a bit of a time penalty, and that's not going to help him in any way. Interesting thing is that Unfolded has actually pulled a gap on Togue and Micro. So Unfolded, while this track does not serve the Dodge's strength, he is making good use out of what that car can actually do in the corners, and he is making good use of preserving the tire life, and he's actually pulling away of everyone else who is running a strategy similar to his own right now. So I'm really interested to see what the strategy is going to be. I think the best way, if you're going to run stops all the way through, you could probably make that work and make it a 7-stop affair. But you're going to lose a massive amount of time in the pit lane because pit road is so long here. I really think that those top 3 drivers, Pipes, Crizold, and Hyphen, are setting themselves up for what could be an easy podium just by having a massive strategy advantage overall. Again, we're not anticipating any rain in the Stint. It's expected to be dry all the way through. You look at the front once more. Pipes is starting to pull away from Crizold. He is almost at 60% on that left front. Crizold, he is at 56%. So Crizold's actually managing his tires just a little bit better than ESV Pipes is right now. But you have to wonder, is he managing the tires at a detriment of lap time? There is a benefit. You don't want to manage your tires, but have no time whatsoever. Then again, we thought that Crizold's teammate Villa was in a similar position of being too focused on tire life and not focused on track position, and yet he still pulled off a ridiculously strong result from last place. Maybe Crizold can make something similar to that happen again. He's already pulled back up on the Pipes. Again, Pipes, you look at that left front, well, look at that left rear, he's at 60%. The rest of this lap is going to be really a struggle for Pipes. They've gone about 21, will be almost 22 minutes. So just about 10 laps, honestly, for Pipes. You consider that the first minute was spent kind of puttering around with a bunch of extra time, and then the laps here are a little bit longer than 2 minutes. Pipes is able to go about 10 laps on the mediums. The soft tire compounds seem to be able to go about 7 laps on the softs. Oh, big slide by Pipes, big twitch. He'll maintain his position for now, though. So it is Ford Mustang versus... Oh, and is that Mercedes saying that? Yes, Crizold stays out for another lap. So Crizold says, hey, look, I can go even farther. I don't know how good of a strategy it is, but he's going to try and go a little bit farther. He wants to try and make this stint go about 25 minutes. All right, we're going to knock out well, actually, I want to see where these guys end up in relation to the rest of the field here first. So Hyphen is on the similar strategy to Pipes, but does not have the lap time to keep up. And they are well behind Unfolded. Unfolded has opened up a massive gap on them for now, but Unfolded needs to just continue to put on hot lap after hot lap for the rest of this. And Pipes is going to end up where? Oh, where's... Okay, Pipes is completely in no man's land, way back in 10th. He is nowhere near the rest of the field. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and knock out an ad break. We'll be back shortly here at Road America to see Crizold make his first stop of the day. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you back here to Road America. EXR Unfolded has gone into the lead, so he is now the 5th different driver to have led today. ESV Pipes has led, ZR Crizold has led, along with NDL Micro and NDL Togue, and Unfolded is your 5th different leader. Also, credit to NWR Bradders, he has fought his way up into the 2nd position right now, ahead of the likes of Togue and Micro. So Bradders is making some hay in the Chevrolet. right now. I do want to go ahead and talk about Chrysalid. Chrysalid did have a big run into the dirt after making their stop, but I think Chrysalid may be working on an alternate strategy of their own. So for Pipes and Arkina, they are looking at a 5-stop strategy, and they could potentially make their last stop a run on the soft tires instead of the medium. Chrysalid went an extra lap longer than Pipes. I think there's a possibility that if Chrysalid commits to that and minimizes the amount of time he goes off, Chrysalid could make his race a 4-stop strategy. Now, he would never put on the softs, but he would only pit 4 times across the event. His tires would be hurting, but I think a 4-stop might be in the cards for Chrysalid. So Chrysalid may be doing a 4-stop strategy. For ESV Pipes and NWR Arkina, we are looking at a 5-stop strategy. 4 of those on mediums and 1 on softs, and then for everyone else in the field, we are anticipating a 7-stop strategy, all softs all the way here. Unfolded is your leader right now. He has opened up a significant gap over this man here, NWR Bradders. So Chevys didn't have a great result in Stint 1. Didn't even get a single entrant into the top 5, but here in Stint 2, NWR Bradders has pulled his Chevrolet up in the second, and Matt Klim is the first to pit. Remember, Klim pitted a lap earlier than everyone else in the first. Before the first round stops, it looks like he's going to be doing the same thing here in the second round. The next round pit stop's about to open up here. Real quickly as we look at the distance penalties right now, a lot of the fields still keep it relatively clean. The nice thing about Road America is that this circuit is very close to being a case of if it's paved, it's legal. You really only have to worry about getting distance penalties by going off track here in turn 5 at the end of the back straightaway, and then the runoff at the end of turn 1. Basically everywhere else, you don't really have to worry about getting distance penalties here. We saw 3 different drivers out of the 13 that started Stint 1 finish with no distance penalties, and then everyone who did have distance penalties, only 2 of them had even a 1/10 of a mile. We've had events before where we've been looking at half a mile or entire mile worth of distance penalties. So Road America not nearly as penalizing when it comes to track limits as a circuit like Spa. Toad falling to a very distant 3rd place. I want to look at the tire life of our leaders right now, and Floyd is at 51%, but he can probably stay out for a few more laps. Bradders and Toad, they've been burning through their tires a little bit faster than our current leader. Well, not now. Toad is only at 36%. So Toad has elected to throw on mediums at this stint. So for Toad, if that is his strategy, it may not be a bad one, because Toad could, and Micro seems to be on a similar strategy. So Toad and Micro may have elected to make their first stint, their stint on the softs. And they may still be committed to a 5-stop, but they could run their first stint on softs, and all the rest they could try to go on the medium tires. This is your 2nd place driver right now, NWR Bradders. He is going soft early on here at Road America. So Bradders will likely pit at about the same time that EXR Unfolded does. So the interesting thing there is that this means that ESV Pipes is basically on the same strategy, and Arkina is actually top Pipes again. Pipes is realistically on the same strategy as Toad and Micro, but Toad and Micro have a significant track position advantage. Pipes will have a slight tire advantage that he will be able to push the entire race, and that tire advantage is going to get really, really significant at the very final stint of the run. But Unfolded and Bradders, I imagine that they are committing to a 7-stop strategy, just going soft all the way through, hoping that overall lap times will work out in their favor. I'm not so sure that's going to work, especially because Bradders is already about to fall back into the clutches of NDL Toad here. They 2 of these fought on merit for a little bit. Bradders had the tire advantage. He had a track position disadvantage and a tire advantage, but he thought he ran right up and passed them all, but now the momentum is switching back the other way in NDL Toad's favor. Other thing to remember is that in the championship, NDL Toad's team is going to inherit the points lead after this, and their closest rivals going into today's event were the ESV and the team that NDL Micro was on, but those were kind of distant fights, and honestly, Togue is putting himself together, that all he has to do, if he just brings home another podium, should be able to inherit the overall points lead and should actually be able to massively solidify their team's grip on the overall championship today. So Togue does not have to go out and go fight crazy and win. He can just put together good runs. All right, here comes Unfolded into the pits now, and Bradders is going to join him. So we'll see NDL Togue go back into the lead. Of our 14 starters, a bit more than a third, 5 of them have all led laps at some point or another in today's event. We're also going to see Higher Cranky pit and NWR Shadow. Will NDL Daniel go ahead and join them in pit lane? No, he will not. He is on a harder set of tires right now. So how many of these drivers is ESV Pipes going to get by here? As Pipes goes down the straight, Unfolded's not even out of pit lane yet. So yeah, it looks like when it comes to overall strategy, this is going to work out well for Pipes. Pipes trying to put himself in position to fight for a top 3 to try and keep this team somewhere in the championship hunt. This would also be the best result for a Ford Mustang entry if Pipes could put it together. I don't think a Mustang has won a single stint. I think the best result by a Mustang thus far was 3rd at Watkins Glen, if my memory serves correctly. Also at this stage of the event, NDL Togue has no distance penalties, which is the opposite of where it was at the end of Stint 1. Micro, who his teammate didn't do one Stint 1, he already has penalties. Almost, he's at 29 thousandths of a mile worth of penalties right now. Then 3rd place in the BMW M8, NDL Daniel, he is at 0.016 miles. Then Pipes has no penalties yet, and neither does EXR Unfounded. And Unfolded is not too far off of ESV Pipes, and he's going to have a tire advantage, so you likely will be able to see him run down ESV Pipes. But I don't know if he'll be able to catch him. And then even if he runs him down and catches him, and he won't have a whole lot of time to pull away from him, his tires will fall off, and Pipes will likely be able to start closing back in on him afterwards. Chrysalid is actually running behind Unfolded right now. Again, Chrysalid went a little bit farther on tires in Stint 1. We don't, well, not in Stint 1, but in their first tire stint. We don't know if they're going to try and do that again here in Stint number 2. At the front, it is NDL Togue. He's got 50% tire life. He has 19% left in the tank, so he can probably stay out for a few more laps and be fine. All right, we're going to knock out an ad break, try and get ahead of the ads here, but we'll be back very shortly here at Road America. Hopefully to catch our leaders make their next round of pit stops. Don't go away. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Road America as we ride on board with EXR Unfolded. He is trying to press his tire advantage. I think for Unfolded, He wants to be able to catch Pipes, but I don't think he wants to fight Pipes for the position. I think for Unfolded, his best strategy would be to try and catch ESV Pipes, get the draft off of that car, and let the draft from Pipes' Mustang just kind of carry the Dodge around, make him a little bit faster in a straight line, so Unfolded can get a little bit more time and distance overall in his favor. Unfolded is currently the leader of what we believe are drivers who are running a 7 pit stop strategy right now. Not likely in a position to fight for overall stint win, but they're still trying to make something happen on something wildly different here. Our leader is NDL Toad, followed by NDL Micro, but we are anticipating that those drivers, along with NDL Daniel and third, will be pitting on this lap. Toad is already about to hit 60% by the time they get into the kink. He is burning up the left front. Micro is burning up the left rear on his car, and he is just about out of fuel. So for Micro, he's going to have to hope he doesn't run out of fuel here. I think he'll be fine, but he is definitely pitting this lap. Toad might be able to stretch that another lap just based on the amount of fuel in the tank. But he'll have to, I imagine that if he knows what's best for him, he will pit this lap. 60.61% already for NDL Toad. He's got 10% left in the tank. Yep, and here he comes into the pits. So Toad pits, Micro pits. Will Daniel join them? Daniel in the BMW M8, his tires are at 61%. He doesn't have a lot of fuel left either, so I imagine he will pit, and this will transition the lead of the race over back to ESV Pipes, who has been just about caught by EXR Unfolded. Pipes is at almost 44% on the left front for EXR Unfolded, who is on softer tires and is finally caught him. He is at 26.7% here. And the important thing for Unfolded is that he has got Pipes, he's got the draft off of that Ford. Ideally, he's going to want to stay in Pipes' draft to try and lengthen out, or maybe not lengthen out, but go farther, faster on the set of tires and fuel. Not quite nose to tail. And now they come onto the back stretch, and Unfolded has a good run coming onto the back stretch. He's actually going to pull on side, so forget what I said earlier. Unfolded says, screw this. I want to fight for a lead right away. So Unfolded trying to make something happen around the outside. Pipes is on more worn and harder tires. Unfolded is on fresher, softer tires. He make the outside work. Well, he's done enough to hold even, but you don't want to be side by side going into the Corvette where someone has to back out. No one backs out. No, it'll be Pipes who backs out, and Unfolded goes to the lead. But again, these two are on two completely different strategies. Pipes has yet to make his second stop of the day. Unfolded has already made his second, and he's ran down Pipes, and he's already by, and now he's running away. Pipes isn't even remotely keeping up with Unfolded right now. Is this really going to be the winning strat? Unfolded just going all softs all the way through. I don't think it will be, but Unfolded is trying to make an argument that all softs all the way through is the way to go. Chrysalid is way farther back in third position, but we think that Chrysalid is trying to do a 4-stop strategy instead of a 5-stop strategy. So maybe the race will still come back to them later, we don't know. And then you have NWR Bradders, who is also running all softs. He is basically doing a replication of the strategy that Unfolded is running right now, and he has caught Chrysalid and will likely get by the, well, I think should have the speed to get by the Mercedes in a straight line. We'll see. As a bit of a late commitment, but Bradders has the straight run speed to pull alongside. Dead heat as they head down into turn number 1, and Bradders slides in front, and Chrysalid is running a much harder tire, just does not have the grip to try and cross Bradders over on corner exit. Now Bradders moving ahead as they go down the back straightaway. On track, it is very clear that soft tires just destroy mediums unless those softs are near the end of their life. Unfolded, holding station over Pipes, and is actually pulling away and basically denying Pipes any shot at the draft right now. Now this will swing back in Pipes' favor, we imagine, sooner rather than later. Unfolded is at almost 40% tire life. Pipes is at 53. Oh, it might not. Pipes might actually end up still pitting before Unfolded does. And if Pipes and Unfolded pit basically at the exact same lap, then basically Unfolded will have already outran one pit stop of the deficit that he has to Pipes. And he's done, and he's looking, again, we're anticipating that Pipes is doing a 5-stop strategy, and Unfolded might have already put himself in a position where he has outran one of those pit stop deficits before we're even halfway through. If he can do that again later on, maybe Unfolded has a shot, and Pipes has the second time we have seen him go wide out of Canada corner and slide going through the dirt. So Pipes showing a little bit of weakness on track, losing a chunk of time as his tires start falling off here at Road America. As they ascend up the hill once again. Pipes, 56% tire wear. Unfolded, I imagine he's at 52? 44, not even close. So the other thing is that the Dodge, because they're so much slower in a straight line, you're not really asking really as much out of the brakes when you're braking on them. So because of that, the tires aren't really burning up. So if you're going to do a strategy where you're just banging out soft tires all the time, you don't want to worry about tire fall at all, the Dodge is the best car to do it in, just because the Dodge makes all of its time in the corners and initial acceleration. It does not have a top speed. So if you're going for overall distance, yes, this is the way to go. But in driver-on-driver combat, when you are on even tires, this is the last car you want to be in. And if this strategy does not work out and Unfolded ends up fighting with Pipes at the end, and Pipes has a tire advantage on Unfolded, there's nothing that Unfolded is going to be able to do to fight back against Pipes. But credit where credit is due. Unfolded is really doing his best. He might be able to outrun the entire field on what we believe will be a 7-stop strategy. Alright, this is a little bit farther back. This is Toad, who ran softs on the first stint, but ran medium in the stint since. Pipes, Chrysalid, and Hyphen have all gone medium on their first 2 stops. We're waiting to see when they will make their next stop. I imagine it will be at the end of either this lap or next lap. Toad tucked up behind Hyphen right now. Hyphen hit at the same time as Pipes, but has just not had the pace to keep up with Pipes. And Hyphen's wide. Hyphen's nearly into the dirt as they go through the kink. It's going to be a drag race between these two. Aston Martin versus Ford as they dive into the corner. Can he make it stick? He is. He's by. The car slides on exit, but he's through. And Toad clears Hyphen out of Canada corner. The Aston Martin moves up to the 6, and Pipes pits out of second spot now. So this should cycle NWR Bradders up into second, and will cycle ZR Chrysalid up into third, I imagine. Because again, we think that Chrysalid is trying to go a lap farther on each medium stint compared to what the likes of Pipe and Hyphens are. Because we think Chrysalid is trying to cut out a pit stop, just stretching the medium tires out all the way. Shadow now moves up in the fourth, and he sees Chrysalid ahead. So Chrysalid will be the next driver that Shadow catches. But Shadow is already at 57% tire life, so he's going to be paid sooner rather than later as well. Same with Unfolded, who is your leader. He is at 56% tire wear right now. I imagine he will be paying at the end of this lap. NWR Shadow, he is at 58%, so he'll likely be paying. I believe that Unfolded, Bradders, and Shadow are your 3 drivers on the 7-stop strategy, and then Toad and Micro are on the 5-stop strategy, like what Pipes and Arkeen are doing, but Toad and Micro ran their soft stint in the very start of the race. Pipes is likely going to run softs at the very end of the race. So we're likely going to see NDL Toad possibly, no guarantee, but possibly re-inherit the lead in a bit here. But Unfolded, absolutely just destroying everyone on just overall pace. This is the advantage of having soft tires and a car that is not fast in a straight line. He has a higher average speed, and he is not putting nearly as much strain on the tires. He also has a good idea as to when his tires actually fall off. He's not really pushing his tires to a ridiculous number. And Unfolded's going to stay out for another lap, actually. Well, 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 I wouldn't do that, but Unfolded is staying out for another lap. So Unfolded goes 2 laps farther than Pipes before making another stop. Bratters finally pits, Chrysalid pits, but Chrysalid, I'm feeling a lot more bullish on Chrysalid's, not bullish, but negative about Chrysalid's ability to make it on just 4 stops. Chrysalid might be abandoning the 4-stop strategy here, considering that they did not pit 2 laps later than Pipes this time, only 1 lap later. So is Chrysalid going to give up the 4-stop strategy and maybe commit late to a 5-stop? If they choose to do that, maybe they can make something out of it. We'll see. Bratters, already coming out of pit lane, will cycle out 6th on the circuit behind ESV Pipes. But he is still ahead of Chrysalid. And will stay ahead of... Okay, so now it's Hyphen who's going a lap farther than what Pipes did. So that's interesting. Oh no, Hyphen pitted with Pipes and I missed it. Never mind, I apologize for that mistake. P1R Coastal, though, is still out on track on worn tires. This is the car that, while Beast Baller, who drove the car in Stint 1, finished last lap down, they did bring home that extra point for not having any distance penalties. And if you look right now on the penalties, Coastal is setting himself up to do the same thing right now. So if a lot of these drivers end up finishing this stint, and then again Stint 3 later, who I will not be covering Stint 3, but if a lot of drivers end up bringing home stints with no distance penalties, that could really shake up the midfield when it comes to the point order as it is right now. Bit of a fight going on for 10th. This is between Haya Cranky and Matt Klim. These 2 cars were the ones who fought for 5th to the end, fought for 5th and 6th to the end last stint, and Unfolded finally making a pit stop. But Unfolded is only making his 3rd stop about 48 minutes into the event, so Unfolded seems to be able to go about 16 minutes through. So yeah, he is well on track for a nice, easy 7-stop strategy. The question is, where is Unfolded going to be in relation to ESV Pipes? Because if Unfolded is still ahead of Pipes, or even with Pipes, and then start pulling away from him, then there is a very high likelihood that Unfolded is going to have a significant advantage on Pipes. This is the chance. Pipes accelerating down the front straightaway now. Where is Unfolded? Unfolded has already come out of pit lane, coming down to turn number 1. Daniel is still between them. Pipes is nowhere near Unfolded right now. And the track's not wet, the track is dry, so it's not like Unfolded is going to be leaching out a gigantic amount of heat from the front tires going down the straights. I think this could work. Unfolded might have, because the Dodge has a cheat code in the form of being slow and in turn not burning up the front tires. I think Unfolded might have a big cheat code that could let him pull off a win on the 7-stop strategy. E1R Coastal making their next stop now. So now everyone has made their 2nd stop, and everyone who is committing to all stops all the way through has made their 3rd stop. Togue and Micro are your leaders now. We have 3 distinctly different strategies playing out. Togue, Micro, and Daniel are on the 5-stop strategy, but they ran their first stint on softs and they are doing all mediums the rest of the day. Then you have EXR Unfolded. He is leading on a 7-stop strategy. And then you have ESV Pipes, who is leading, we believe, Chrysalid and Hyphen. They are on a 5-stop strategy, but they are saving their soft tire stint for the last pit stop. So those are your 3 different strategies you are looking at right now. Togue leads strategy 1, 5 stops with softs at the beginning. Pipes leads strategy 2, 5 stops with softs at the end. And Unfolded leads on stint on strategy 3, which is 7 stops, all of them on soft tires. And if you're tired about hearing about strategies. I am sorry, there's not really been a lot of active fights for positions going on, and the fights that have been for positions thus far today, most of them have been off of the back of the massive tire disadvantages. After the first round of pit stops, really the only time we see positions change are when drivers on much fresher tires are destroying drivers on much slower tires right now. So if you're not happy about constantly hearing about strategy, the sad thing is there's just not a lot of other stuff to talk about here. There's not enough championship contenders running in today's race to really make the overall title fight worth talking about right now. Bratters trying to run down on ESV pipes. And again, they're not even halfway through, so Bratters might be putting himself in a position to give Pipes some headache a little bit later in the run as well, if he can catch Pipes and get away from him. Again, we anticipate that Pipes is going to really open up the gas and go a lot faster in the very last run here in the race. Gap between Togue and Micro seems to be pretty steady. It seems like Togue very easily has the advantage over Micro as it stands right now. The big thing though is that Micro is keeping Togue relatively within play, and Micro's teammate Dindu is the driver that won the first stint of the three today, and Togue was a very distant third. So while Togue could set himself up to win this stint, I do believe that the Noodles team and that Ferrari would still be in the overall lead at the end of Stint 2. Again, Stint 3 could be the real wild card. Stint 3 is going to start in dry conditions in the night, but as the daytime shows up there in Stint 3, we are anticipating that we will see the track become wet there. So, do keep that in mind. It could get really weird in Stint 3. Sadly, again, I'm not forecasted to broadcast Stint 3, but do keep that in mind. And it looks like Bratters has already disposed of ESV Pipes on the front straightaway. Now, Pipes will have the draft on Bratters going down the backstretch, and we'll try and use that to close in and negate some of the disadvantage. But Bratters seems to really have this hooked up and is able to just absolutely pull away whenever he wants. He's absolutely pushing the advantage that he has on the soft tires. Chevys have honestly been a lot stronger today than I really expected after how they were in the rainy sections. When it was raining earlier on, these Chevys just could not do a single thing to stay competitive. It felt none of them came home in the top 5 positions. And the one that did cross line 5th had over 1/10 of a mile in distance penalties. But now, Chevrolets have come to life here. Now that they have a little bit more guaranteed traction, they're really able to open up and make some hay with the overall straight line speed that they've got. All right, fight going on for 10th right now between Haya Cranky and Matt Klim. This fight has kind of gone back and forth for a while. Both these drivers have distance penalties, but Klim has a lot less. And Arkina, who is ranked 14th, now gets a distance penalty. Big distance penalty at that. Big slide. Oh, and Klim's pitting. NWR Bratters might try and run down NDL Daniel. And remember, Daniel is on the same strategy as Toad and I forgot the other driver's name, as someone dropped out. It's Arkina! And Arkina has lagged out. We'll try to reach out to Arkina and see if they want to say anything about what's happened. But yeah, Daniel's on the same strategy as Togue and Micro right now. Those tires are not looking good for Daniel, but for Bradders, they're not going to be looking very good either. But Bradders does have a tire advantage over Daniel. But again, we are anticipating that Daniel will likely throw on softs a little bit later in the event. Into our top two drivers stop. 54% for Togue. He could probably make it one more lap if he wanted to. I think it would probably be in his interest to try and push one more lap. And he is going to push one more lap here. So does Micro. EXR Unfolded is on a radically different strategy, nowhere near these drivers right now. And Arkina says that he had a controller die on him. Frustration for NWR Arkina. Disconnect, a controller disconnect. He's not even going to be able to finish here. Absolute frustration for that injury. Okay, we're going to knock out an ad break here, and when we come back, we'll likely see our leaders on track go ahead and make their next round of pit stops, and we'll be at halfway distance here at Road America. Welcome back to Road America. Our top two, NDL Togue and NDL Micro, have made their next stop. NDL Daniel is just caught by ESV Pipes before making his next stop. Pipes still going to be out here on track for a little bit. He has been pushing a tire advantage as this event has gone on, trying to overtake the likes of Daniel, Togue, and Micro. And honestly, the way it is looking, Pipes should be able to dispose of Daniel. We just don't know where he's going to be in relation to Togue at the end of this run. He is ahead of Togue for right now, though. %. But again, Pipes, we are anticipating, still has about 3 more stops until the end of this event. His next stop will probably be in about 4 more laps or so. Your leaders are EXR Unfolded and NWR Bradders. They're likely not going to pit for another 2 or so laps. Unfolded has absolutely been the master of the field today, absolutely just destroying everyone in lap times and pace. But Unfolded is making 2 more stops than most of the rest of the field right now. That looks like it is going to be the big wild card. Does Unfolded have the speed to outrun everyone else by 2 entire pit stops? 1 pit stop, absolutely, we can believe that. 2 pit stops around Road America is going to be a big ask, especially because Pipes is anticipated to really up his pace near the very end of this run. Unfolded is only at 52%. He could probably stay out for another lap. In fact, it would probably be in his interest to stay out for another lap if he thinks he can do it. And yes, he will. So Unfolded really trying to push his advantage. Togue and Shadow having a bit of a fight there. Oh, and Togue's actually gone off. I saw that wrong. Shadow has gone off. There's no damage to the car. But he has gone off at the end of Canada Corner. I'm guessing he went for a big move on NDL Micro and went off. Bradders is paying out a second. So Bradders can't push his tires as far as Unfolded, unsurprisingly. We're likely going to see Shadow pit on the following lap. And there goes Chrysalid pitting now. So I'm guessing Chrysalid just got off a set of soft tires, and I'm really confused as to what Chrysalid's strategy is to the end now. I honestly can't tell, but I don't think that Chrysalid's really in the running for a top 5 result at this stage. I think top 5 is going to end up being Unfolded, Pipes, Togue, Micro, and then either Shadow or Bradders. But of those 5, it could really shake up in a lot of different orders. I don't know why Darkster joined. Darkster should be doing tour ISCC. I'm not sure why he was here. Most of the field is pretty much spread out. We have had this fight for 10th and 11th that has gone back and forth for a while between Matt Klim and ZR Haya Cranky, but all of the other battles on track have pretty much resolved themselves. It's just a matter of setting lap times and hoping that your strategy gives you the best balance of track position and tire life to the end. Oh, and Unfolded's pitting now. So we'll see the lead of the race go back to ESV Pipes here. Shadow is going to end up right behind Unfolded when it's all said and done with. Now Shadow has not made a stop yet. So wait, have I missed it? No, Shadow's first 3 stints apparently were on softs, but he is running this stint on mediums. So with that, he has closed in on EXR Unfolded. I have to wonder, did Shadow not have confidence in running all softs all the way through? And because of that, did he choose to throw on medium tires? Trying to salvage, I guess, maybe to go to a 6-stop strategy? I mean, I would imagine a 6-stop strategy would be the worst of all worlds, but maybe that's what Shadow is going for. We know he was running softs earlier. Big thing is, now he has a tire disadvantage and a track position disadvantage and a pit stop disadvantage. Through to the end, he's really got no good strategy working in his favor. I'm just not really sure what they're going for here. He's gonna have to pit either at the end of this lap or next lap anyway, so it's not been a significant advantage. It's not like EXR Unfolded felt any pressure from him. And right now, Unfolded doesn't even have to worry about fighting people on track. He just needs to pound out some incredible laps. He should be in a position that once Pipes makes a stop, which has to be this lap, he'll immediately get by Pipes. If anything, this could be frustrating for Pipes, because Pipes might have to deal with NWR Shadow almost immediately coming out of the pits. Don't know if he'll have to deal with Bradders or Hyphen, though. Frustrating thing for Pipes is that Pipes is trying to minimize time he's spending in pit road, but he is spending a lot more time battling and fighting with other people on the track. Shadow's going to go by ESV Pipes. Pipes is still in pit lane, so we're likely going to see Bradders go by Pipes as well. So Pipes is going to have a tire advantage, but he's still going to have to fight potentially with at least NWR Bradders. But anyways, at the head of the field, it is Toad, who likely has, what, 4 more laps on the set of time? Probably a lot more than that, probably closer to 6 or 7 laps more on the set of tires. So he's going to be leading for a while here. The big question, of course, is going to be Unfolded. Can Unfolded catch at least Micro and try to give Micro some problems before he burns up his tires? Unfolded's already at 12%. Micro is at 21%. So that's a 9% difference. Big slide by Micro. That's a 9% difference, and that difference is only going to shrink, and then eventually it is going to invert later on. But he needs to run up there, catch Micro, get by Micro on this run of tires, then pit, and then after pitting again, he needs to go out there, run down Toad, and catch Toad. And again, all the while, he needs to maintain his advantage over ESV Pipes. When all is said and done with, Pipes has ended up behind NDL Daniel. So like I said, Pipes has to deal with traffic again, drivers on alternate strategies. And that's probably the biggest frustration for Pipes. He's spending so much time on track that he is hemorrhaging time on the circuit. And he keeps running up and fighting with drivers who are on alternate strategies that he really shouldn't be fighting with. Daniel is realistically on the mirror image of Pipes' strat. His first softs were early in the event. Pipes is run on softs will be at the end of the event, and Pipes keeps catching Daniel and keeps having to spend time fighting with Daniel. And yes, every time Pipes catches Daniel, he has a tire advantage, but it doesn't seem to affect. He still has to burn up and use his tires trying to get around this BMW. And mind you, Pipes still has to do the same thing against NDL Micro, and still has to do the same thing against NDL Toad. And on top of that, on top of all of that, he still has to figure out a way to catch and get by EXR Unfolded as this race goes on. So Pipes may have a good strategy, I just don't know if it's a winning strategy because everyone else has really maximized their run on the softs early on in the case of Toad and Micro, all day long in the case of Unfolded. Pipes really is going to have to put together some miracle laps with some qualified like lap time performances while passing other drivers and not losing time in the final 15 minutes of this run. I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm saying that if he's able to do it, it would be incredible. And Daniel goes off, but in the process, he denies Pipes the ideal line, coming through turns 5 and 6, and he's still right here behind Pipes, still going to be putting some bad arrow on the lead car. All right, now Pipes finally is going to pull away from Daniel enough, but I don't think Daniel's going to hurt Pipes' lap times too much. But still, the frustration for ESV Pipes here, dealing with this. So much frustration. Meanwhile, fight for second place is about to kick in. Look at Unfolded's tires. He is at 26% on the front left. Look at NDL Micro's tires. He is at 13% on the rear left. So the gap in tire life is now down to just 4%. But Unfolded is running Micro down. But does he have enough of a tire advantage to run down? All right, Shadow has pitted. So that's one driver that Pipes won't have to deal with. Pipes is only going to have to deal with Daniel for a little bit, but Daniel's right in Pipes' draft. Now, the way that this game emulates arrow weight, it kind of does like an inverse arrow wash. If you're in someone's draft, the driver ahead actually deals with arrow wash on the nose of their car. It's a weird thing, but now Pipes has to deal with arrow wash from this BMW following him. Alright, I want to calculate the distance between Micro and Unfolded here. 1,001, 1,002, 1,000. maybe 2 3/4 between second and third right now. Unfolded is running Micro down, but he is burning up his tire advantage doing so. Again, Micro is on the medium tires. He will be able to go a lot farther than Unfolded does. He is just destroying the Scap, though. He's going to catch him next lap. There's no way around that. Out of Canada corner. The other thing is that Micro still has distance penalties. Unfolded does not. Not quite close enough to get the draft off of Micro down the front straightaway. But he might be able to get the draft to make a dive bomb on Micro going into turn 5. Through turn 1. Ferrari versus Dodge. Once more. Top 3 in this race right now were the top 3 cars fighting for and eventually winning the podium positions in the first stint. Unfolded and Toad are going back to back. Micro is the odd one out. Micro's only doing this stint. He did not run the first stint. All right, Unfolded still not close enough to get a draft off of Micro down the backstretch either. But look how much he closes under braking. Good Lord, he cut that gap in half. The gap is down to about 1.5 seconds between the two of them. But at this point, Unfolded now is going to be on tires that are more worn than Micro's. Does Unfolded get to Micro and just force his way by and run around, or does he just hang out in Micro's draft for a bit? I think he's going to go for it. Coming out of the carousel, he's right there, tucked up behind the Ferrari, through the kink. Oh, Micro's wide! Micro's wide! He left the room open for Unfolded! Here comes Unfolded around the outside! Drag race on the run down the Canada corner! The Ferrari should have the advantage, but Unfolded has the inside line! Going under braking, Unfolded goes deep! He slides wide! Really wide! But Micro doesn't have the confidence in the tires! And the Dodge completes the overtake on the Ferrari! So Unfolded moves into second now. Now flying down the front straightaway. Micro has the draft on Unfolded. Does he try to fight back? I don't think he's close enough to fight back. The tire wear, especially on the Ferrari, which burns through its rear tires faster than the front, the tire wear on the Ferrari has just not been conductive to letting the Ferrari really fight aggressively in most of these battles unless there is a gigantic tire disadvantage. But these two cars were fighting for the win in stint 1. The Ferrari had something like a 20% tire advantage, and even then only just beat the Dodge in the straight line here when their tires are relatively equal. But Micro has to be really careful nursing the rear tires coming onto the straights. It just doesn't look like he has anything to do to fight back. He's not willing or able to go deep into the corner because he knows the deeper he goes in the corner, the worse he's going to be coming out. He's doing a good job keeping in Unfolded's draft. It's just not looking good for him right now. And now you start getting to these shorter straights and the more technical corners in Sector 2. This is where we start seeing Unfolded just pull away from Micro. And P1R Coastal is going to go a lap down here very shortly. Toad, how many more laps is he going to stay out here? He's at 47, so he can probably stay out for another 2, maybe 3 laps. He's going to be held up by a Chevrolet of P1R Coastal just a bit. Oh, I say that, but Coastal honestly got out of the way in Canada corner, so Coastal will be the first driver to go a lap down here in this stint. look at that gap that Unfolded's already pulled on Micro. Big thing though is that Unfolded is going to have to be pitting at the end of this lap, I imagine. And he'll still have 2 more pit stops after that. Unfolded can really attack the track and really make up great ground in the corners, but does not have a lot of straight line speed, and that means that overtaking other cars for him just takes so much longer. That is the big weakness he is looking at. For Togue, he has a massive amount of track position advantage, but he is on a tire disadvantage, a pace disadvantage, basically to the end of the run. And then Pipes is kind of the wild card. We do not know how much faster Pipes is going to go when we anticipate he will put on soft tires in the final stretch of the race. He has been running at a very large track position disadvantage basically this entire day. Micro now coming up on the lapped car of, well, both of them are coming up on the lapped car of P1R Coastal very shortly here. Coastal's had an accident. Has Coastal crashed coming out of Canada, out of the Kink? It looks like it. There's no damage, so he'll be able to continue. But it goes from bad to worse for Coastal. Micro waiting to see if EXR Unfolded is going to pit this time by. And yes, he does. So EXR Unfolded finally making his 5th of what should be 7 stops. Togue and Micro still have 2 more stops to make as well. They have the track position, but do they have enough pace to maintain that advantage? We're going to ride on board with ESV Pipes for a bit, give you an idea of what a flying lap is like here around Road America in the Ford Mustang. Lap on board with ESV Pipes as he overtakes Micro and Togue as they make their 4th stops of the day. We're going to try and reach out to P1R Coastal and see if he wants to talk about the frustrating time he has had today. Don't know if he'll be willing to jump in and talk with us, but it's worth giving him the offer. So Pipes is in first, Chrysalid in second, Togue third, still ahead of EXR Unfolded. Second, third, and fourth all are relatively close to each other on track. In fact, Togue is basically right behind Chrysalid, and Togue has a gigantic tire advantage right now, trying to put some pressure on this Mercedes. Side by side on the run downhill. Togue is on fresh medium tires, and they have Unfolded just a little bit farther back, who is on a set of softs right now. Now these softs have a little bit of wear to them, but Unfolded should have some good speed and be able to run down. At least Chrysalid, we don't know what he's going to be able to do to Togue. No, not close enough to get a draft off of the two cars ahead in a straight line by the looks of it. Oh my goodness, but look how much he closes in under braking, and look how much he maintains that closeness on corner exit. That's where the Dodge makes up all of its time. Looking to the outside of the Mercedes. Outside in the final corner. It's a dangerous and risky move, but he's going to make it stick. Just barely. Chrysalid gives up and is going to come into the pits. And now Unfolded sets his sights on NDL Togue. Unfolded has already outran one pit stop on Togue, pretty much. Is he going to be fast enough to outrun two pit stops? And again, he still needs to do the same thing to ESV Pipes. Pipes leads by a respectable margin over this duo right now. The fight for the win looks like it's going to be between Pipes, Togue, and Unfolded. Pipes is going to have a massive disadvantage. He's going to have to dig deep, but he'll have the best tires to do so. Togue will have the biggest track advantage, but will be at a tire disadvantage. And Unfolded, well, we don't really know where he's going to end up in relation to Pipes or Togue. That's the wild card that we still don't know. Imagine if this comes down to just where these three drivers started this race. Remember, at the start of this race, Togue started third, Unfolded started second, Pipes started 14th. Unfolded's right there on Togue, and now he pulls out. Again, Togue not really comfortable having someone on his rear wing as they go through the kink. It upsets him, and that's enough to compromise his straight line speed advantage. And Unfolded, while that Dodge is not fast in a straight line, when he's able to make the other car lose so much speed in that high-speed kink, it's able to work out in his favor. And Unfolded is already by Togue. And remember, Unfolded is at a tire disadvantage. Yes, he's got soft, so he should be faster, but he's burning through his tires much, much faster than Togue because Togue is on mediums. And despite that, Unfolded just doesn't care. He puts the power down and just runs off with it. So Pipes, Unfolded, and Togue, those are the three drivers fighting for the win here, all on alternate strategies. Unfolded has outran a pit stop on Togue. Can he outrun two pit stops? That is the big question. And then you have Pipes, who's a little bit farther up. He's going to be pitting likely at the end of this lap. Will fall behind our current second and third place drivers. Will likely fall behind NDL Micro as well. I'm anticipating that we'll see Unfolded pit in about, not this lap, not the lap after, but like in about 3 laps basically, including this lap. And then he'll probably pit again with about 14 to 15 minutes left in the event. Somewhere between 14 and 16 minutes left in the event. And those will be his last 2 stops. Pipes will likely stop at the end of this lap. And then he'll have, what, 33 minutes left? Could Pipes be well enough off to maybe make it a pair of soft tires to the end? If he pits with 30 minutes left, well, if he pits with 34 minutes left, comes out with basically 33 minutes left, if he can make softs last 16 minutes each, he might be able to go to the end on all soft tires. It would be a big ask. Oh, Pipes is wide. He goes off into the dirt in the same place as the third time we see him do it. But could Pipes put on soft tires for his last 2 stints? Could that be in the cards for him? He's coming into the pits now, as we anticipated. And the lead will go to EXR Unfolded. Unfolded still has to make 2 more stops after this. Again, I think the big thing is, if Pipes is confident enough that he wants to run these last 2 stints on soft tires, this race might be over. But if he wants to commit to medium to soft, if he's going to run mediums this time and does 10 more laps on mediums and then puts on softs, he still is going to have to dig deep to try and just catch up against Micro and Togue. And he, again, Unfolded is the wild card. We still don't know where he's going to end up. Other thing for Pipes to deal with is that he has cleared Daniel finally, but he might still have to deal with the likes of Shadow and Bradders. No guarantee, but there's still a possibility. Shadow's gonna have to pit in the next 2 laps, so not him. What about Bradders? I don't think he's gonna catch Bradders. Did Daniel go off? It looked like Daniel went off. He was really slow for a moment there on the map. Well, either way. All right, so I think Pipes should be in relatively clean air for the rest of this run. But what tire compound is he on? Well, he's already at 3.5%. We'll see what his tires are at once he comes across the line. I look at Pipes, the way that he is queuing up those tires right now, I think he's on softs. I think he's going to try and go soft to the end here. What's his tires going to be like as he comes down the start-finish line? He's already at 9%. You do that math, 9% in a lap, and you have to pit after about 63 laps. He's only going to be able to go about 7 laps. It's about 14 minutes. Yeah, Pipes is going to run soft, so he is not doing 5 runs on mediums and then a run on soft. He's doing 4 runs on mediums, which he's already completed, and then the last 2 stints are going to be on softs. I think that's it. If Pipes can make sure that he doesn't have any mistakes and he doesn't go off circuit, Pipes has this race won. Unless, and that's the big thing, Togue has already done a run on the soft tires. If he's able to push these tires far enough, he also could put on softs in the very last stint as well and negate Pipes' comeback. The driver who's really not going to be happy with this is EXR Unfolded, because mind you, Unfolded basically has to pit either at the end of this lap or next lap, and then still has a second stop to make after all of that as well. Unfolded, if everyone else that he's fine with is on soft tires, and he is on soft tires as well, but at a big track disadvantage, there's nothing he can do. He will not be able to run down the cars ahead to fight with them. There's just nothing he'll be able to do. And he's not going deep enough on these runs to give me, or honestly anyone else, confidence that he can say screw it and jump on mediums to try and cut out a pit stop here. He would have to do this lap, which will take him down to about 28 minutes and 30 seconds, then another lap after that, which will take him down to like 26 minutes and 15 seconds, and then maybe another lap after that, to take him down to about 24 minutes flat. And only then, I think, could you argue that maybe this Dodge could make it to the end on a set of mediums. Unfolded is basically locked in to making 2 more stops. I think everyone he is fighting is still making 1 more. And again, if they're on mediums, he can catch them. It would be tough, but he might be able to catch and pass them. But if these other drivers are on softs to the end, I think Unfolded's shot at a win here is done for. How much longer is Toad going to stay out? Probably for a while. Soft tires, we anticipate, can only go about 15 minutes. Maybe a little bit less. The big thing, though, is that Toad, if he just wants to run mediums again, he doesn't have to make a second stop. It will just be the 1. Pipes. He's got track disadvantage. He's got good tires, but he's got a big track disadvantage, and he has to go out here. Might have to overtake Brattles on merit and still. Again, if Pipes and Toad both have 1 more stop to make each, Pipes has to dig deep and close a gigantic gap that he has on Toad. He still has to catch Micro. That's the other thing. Pipes has to be able to catch and overtake Micro. And that could be the wild card. If Pipes is able to run down Micro but can't get by Micro efficiently, he has no chance in the world at catching Toad. We're imagining that Shadow will be paying at the end of this lap. So he's not going to really hold up Pipes for more than maybe a corner. And that is P1R Habit about to go a lap down, right? Yes, it is P1R Habit. It's been a relatively clean second stint here. NWR Shadow making a stop. Unfolded. It's at 28 minutes right now. He'll pit when it's about 26 minutes left. Does Unfolded try it? Does he try to throw on medium tires and nurse mediums to the end? Cut out a pit stop very late and use track position? Because he's got track position on Toad. Not a lot, but he does have it. But we're going to go ahead and knock out an ad break. And that should be our last ad break in this run to the end. After this is done, we should be with this race to the end here. Don't go away. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Road America. EXR Unfolded has completed a pit stop, but we don't know if it's his last pit stop. If he's at roughly 9 to 10% of tire life as he goes down the front straightaway, we'll know he's on softs and is committed to one more stop. However, if he is closer to like 6%, then he is on mediums and is going to not stop anymore to the end of this race. Your leader is Indiel Toad. He ran softs at the very first stand of the race, but he seems to be committed to running mediums to the end here. He can do this lap and one more, maybe even two more, honestly. Please hold. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I do apologize for that. All right. So Toe likely doesn't have to pit this lap or next lap. You do the math. Toe can probably pit with about 20 minutes left, maybe a little less. Might be closer to like 19:30 left. So with 19 minutes and 30 seconds left, Toad is going to be in a frustrating position. He won't really be able to get all the advantages of running the mediums to the end, but this is going to be too long for him to throw on softs to the end. Pipes is kind of in an interesting position because Pipes is putting together some incredible laps, but he still is pretty much locked into making one more stop here in about the next 6 to 8 minutes. So Pipes can push some incredible lap times, and he is ahead of Unfolded by a decent amount. Also, we didn't look at Unfolded's tires. I am sorry. He is on mediums. Unfolded looks like he's committing to the mediums to the end. So Unfolded only got to about 6% by the end. So Unfolded is committing to the mediums to the end of the race. He is not going to pit again. We know that ESV Pipes will pit again. We know that NDL Toad will pit again. Same with everyone else in the top 4. Unfolded is kind of the bar that everyone now has to catch. Toad has such a massive advantage over Unfolded right now. When does Toad choose to pit? I mean, if he chooses to pit now, I think it would be better for him to wait one more lap so he can throw on another set of mediums and know that he will have some good tires on him to the end. His big problem is that he's gonna have track position, but he's not gonna have tires. But now he's not really fighting with Unfolded. He's only really fighting against Pipes. If Pipes ends up getting by Unfolded, then yes, Toad is still fighting Pipes, but Unfolded does not have that massive pace advantage that he has been pushing all day. Again, Unfolded really is kind of committed to a strategy that either Pipes can't make up a lot of ground on the soft tires, or that Pipes has some issues while pitting or shortly after pitting. And that is Bradders, who's pitting out of third, just as Pipes has caught him as well. This might work out for Unfolded. He's not even at 12% at the end of the lap, so he's doing less than 6% per lap. You do the math, if he's at 5% and you need to push to about 65%, you do the math, that's like 13 laps. 13 laps is about 26 minutes. I'm not saying it's gonna work, but I'm saying that because the Dodge is so much slower and it doesn't tear up the tires nearly as much, tire life should be there for Unfolded. The thing is, if a driver catches him, he is going to be destroyed in a straight line. He has no way to defend. Not when this track has 3 gigantic straightaways. And all the while, Pipes is continuing to just open up the gap and run away from Unfolded. He will pit again. He will end up behind Unfolded. But by how much? That is the question. He's at 60% already. But if he's at 60% already, oh gosh, is Pipes going to be able to make the softs last to the end? If he pits at the end of this lap, he's going to have like 19 minutes left. He's going to have to do this lap and one more to make these numbers work out. That fuel is a little bit tight. Is Pipes gonna be able to go soft? Is he gonna have to lift and coast? Is he gonna have to save his tires? Has he played too big? NDL Togue pitting now with 20 minutes left. So Togue is likely gonna throw on mediums. We know that Micro pitting out second as well. Reminder, Micro is on the same strategy as Togue. He's kind of the wild card. He's not in a position to fight for this win. But if Pipes ends up having to fight Micro and takes a long time trying to overtake NDL Micro, it's gonna hurt him. Pipes is pitting now as well. Pipes can't go to the end. Pipes does not think he can make the softs to go to the end. Pipes has likely used up his only soft stint. So is Pipes gonna throw on a set of mediums or a set of softs? Because if he throws on softs, his tires are gonna be hurting. If he throws on mediums, it's gonna be different. Here comes Unfolded. As he goes down, Unfolded to the lead. So what are these drivers behind Unfolded on? If they are on softs, I see no way that you can go 19 and a half minutes on soft tires. If they're on mediums though, they have to hope that Unfolded deals with some massive tire fall off. Everyone is pitted about 2 laps earlier than we anticipated they would. Everyone seems to be potentially altering their strategy. And Pipes, who used soft on that last run, is still behind NWR Shadow and is nowhere close to NDL Micro or Togue. And Pipes did not show the ability to push the soft super far. So Pipes may have used up his last run. Pipes now has to fight against Shadow on merit because Shadow and Pipes are basically on the same tire strat. Now, mind you, Shadow has a 1/8 of a mile penalty right now, so Pipes will clip Shadow in overall distance, but he has to get around Shadow if he wants to even catch Micro, let alone Togue or Unfolded. I think this fight is going to be between the top 2. We know that Togue has a tire advantage, doesn't matter what, compared to what Unfolded is doing. But Unfolded is trying to press mediums a really far distance. Togue is not worried about pressing medium tires as far. Yeah, it looks to me like Togue is on mediums. So Togue is going to try and run Unfolded down. Unfolded is at a tire disadvantage. Togue has a tire advantage to the end. The other thing is that Togue has a massive straight line speed advantage as well. If Togue can catch Unfolded, he is going to destroy Unfolded on track. Look at this. Togue is only at about 5.6% tire life. Unfolded is at 23. He has got an 18% tire disadvantage. That is a 3-lap disadvantage right now in tire life. This is the thing that killed Unfolded and kept Unfolded from winning Stint 1. He got passed with a minute left by NDL didn't do because his tires are just so much more cooked. And now it looks like Unfolded may be in the same position. His tires just aren't going to hold up. They're not going to be there for him at the end. Togue is just going to continue to chip away. And the moment that Togue catches Unfolded's draft, he is going to destroy him. I don't see any way that Togue loses this unless he slides off track. Another thing to consider is that Micro is still running third, so for the overall combined distance across all 3 stints, we'll only have 2 in, but Micro and the NDL team and the Ferrari will still have the overall distance advantage. It won't be by much, but they will still have it because there's no way I think that Pipes catches Micro. Pipes is just too far back. Last place finished 5th. Well, last place star finished 5th in Stint 1. We might see the same thing here for Pipes. He's going to be frustrated because it feels like he should have been fighting for so much more. Now we're right on board with NDL Togue as he tries to close down the gap between himself and Unfolded. And here's the other thing, if either of these drivers get distance penalties, that also could upend this fight. But Togue has to really push hard on the mediums. Unfolded is in a little bit different position. We need to just manage the mediums, make sure they don't completely fall off the cliff on him. But that gap is closing. It's less than 300 feet right now with less than 16 minutes left here. It's just going to be these 2 to the end. Real quickly, a little bit farther back on the grid, this is 7th position, Haya Cranky, but Cranky will be pitting this lap likely to throw out another set of softs, so he's going to drop down. NDL Daniel, was running a strategy similar to what our second place drivers are. So we know that he'll be able to stay out to the end. NWR Bradders, who is 6th right now, he's going to try and nurse these tires to the end, but he is trying to get a big ask. And the NWR Shadow in 4th might be able to steal a top 4. Well, no, he's not. I think he's on softs again, and he's going to have to pit again. So Pipes is likely going to move up into the 4th position, all things considered. But we ride on board 2nd place, NDL Toad, watching the gap close down. Actually, I want to use the points of interest camera so you can kind of get a timing for how the distance is looking between these two. About 7 laps left in this race. 1001, 1002. That's about 2 1/4, if not 2 seconds exactly. Togue is going to catch them. And if Togue is just catching them at a rate of 2 seconds a lap, he's going to catch them almost immediately here. If he's catching them at just half a second a lap, he's going to get him. The tire disadvantage that Unfolded has is just way too great. Big thing though is that Unfolded is slower in the straight, so he's going to be gangbuster in the corners. Toad has to really be on top of this, and if he makes a mistake, he slides off. If he drops tires in the dirt, has a big slide, it's going to derail his run. But if that doesn't happen, I think Toad catches him. Because Unfolded tires are only going to get worse and worse as this goes on. 35% right now. He's about halfway through his tire life. Toad is at 18%. You do the math, that's a 17% difference between the two of them. Unfold's tires are basically half as bad as Toad's. I just see no way that Toad can beat Unfolded. Oh, and that might help. P1R Habit ended up right in front of Unfold, right behind Unfold as they came out. He's got to be right in front of Toad. Now hold the inside line. Is he going to give him any problems? No. Habit says, I'm not going to give the leaders problems here. That might have actually worked out well in Toad's favor. Now he's within 200 feet of Unfolded. The gap closes more and more with every lap. I think he's going to catch them with about 9 minutes left. Looking at the points of interest camera again to try and time. 1001. Now, that's like a second and a half. If he's closing by 3/4 of a second every lap, he's probably going to catch with about 9 minutes, if not a little bit more left. There is nothing that Unfolded can do. Was this the wrong call? Should Unfolded have gone soft to the end? He would have been behind by a lot of time, but he would have been able to push hard. Or is this the best you can do? The Dodge is just not competitive. If Dodge tried to run the same strategy as what the Aston is in, there's nothing he could have done. Because the Dodge is just not competitive. He wouldn't have been able to make any overtakes. Was this all that Unfolded could do? That traffic in front of P1R Habit could end up having a unanticipated knock-on effect, as he will have fresher tires than these top two to the end. As Toad spends a significant amount of time being held up by Unfolded, Habit could try and muscle by to get back on the lead lap, and that could upend things more than a little bit. Micro is a long way out from this battle. Not going to be a factor. It is just these two to the end. 11:11 on the clock. The gap is now less than 100 feet. The big thing though is that Togue is burning up his tires trying to catch Unfolded. And while he'll have a tire advantage and will maintain a tire advantage through to the end, is he going to be able to utilize the tire advantage to overtake Unfolded? Once again, I want to look at this camera to get an idea as to what the distance is between the two of them. It's about maybe a second and a tenth. I feel like the gap is not closing as fast as it did the last 2 laps. Toad may be dealing with a bit of aero wash from Unfolded, which will make him faster at a straight, but will make it harder for him to get into the corners. Is Toad going to start struggling with that? 10 minutes left. So they'll have this lap, and I think 4 more laps here in this race.
10 minutes
29 on the left front for Toad. For Unfolded, 45. So the gap is now down to a 16% advantage in Toad. So the advantage is shrinking. Toad is burning up his tires. He's going to maintain most of the advantage to the end, but he is losing the advantage bit by bit. And with the advantage slowly dribbling away, the amount of time that Toad is going to close by is going to shrink. Toad had a moment into the dirt farther back there, but kept it straight. Here's the big problem, though. On to the straightaways. If Toad is close enough to get a draft off of Unfolded, it's over. There is nothing that the Dodge can do to defend against the driver in their draft. This time, though, it seemed like Toad had a bad time coming onto the straight. The gap actually opened on the straightaway this time. Not by much, but it was by 10 feet. That's good enough for Unfolded, because that means that Toad did not have his draft. It's 9 minutes left. This is about the point where I thought Toad would have caught Unfolded. Well, he's in Unfolded's draft. He can sniff the dirty air off the back of that Dodge. Is this it? Is this going to be the time where he makes the move? Here comes Toad. He's running him down. Does he make a big dive into turn 5? No, he's going to be restrained. He's going to hold back for the moment. Now they accelerate up under the Corvette bridge. There's no value in trying to time the distance between the two of them. They are on top of each other now. Nose to tail for 8.5 minutes. Can Unfolded make that happen? Can he keep Toad behind him? Or can he make Toad make a mistake, have Toad go off and get distance penalties? That could be the other thing. If Toad gets a distance penalty, it could save Unfolded. But vice versa, if Unfolded slides off on these worn out, old, hard tires and he gets a distance penalty, then that would swing the advantage of this race in Toad's favor. Now through the kink once more. Neither of them seem to be handling super well through the kink, but Toad still gets the draft off of Unfolded. He's closing once again. Run down to Canada corner. Can't get alongside. But Unfolded, you can tell that he's really struggling. The car is sliding wide in almost every corner. Toad is able to hold the inside line a little bit better as they come uphill once more. Toad is going to have the draft off of Unfolded. Can he make the move this time? There will be 3 more laps at the line and then just a little bit more to 4th lap after that. Toad seems to be struggling, putting the power down, coming out of the corners. We look at the tire life again. Toad is at 38% on the left front. Unfolded is at 54. You do the math, that's about a 16% swing. So it looks like Toad has stopped losing time. Toad's got time distance penalties. Oh my goodness, is that going to be enough? Will that decide it? Toad has 0.026 of a distance penalty. Is that enough for Unfolded? Now Toad goes for the inside. Big dive. He goes deep. He slides wide. Unfolded crosses him over. Unfolded back in front. He went for the move, but couldn't make it stick. It's a 137-foot gap that Toad needs to pull out now. That is 137 feet of distance penalty that Toad has to EXR Unfolded. So he needs to get Unfolded, get by him, and then get away from him by 137 feet. Stuck behind the Dodge, through the carousel. Side by side on the run down to the kink. Toad says, no way, I'm not doing that. He backs out, gives Unfolded the top position. Both of them are wide as they come out of the kink. It's nose to tail. Toad has the draft. He goes to the inside. They'll be side by side as they go down into Canada corner. This time, Toad does not overshoot it. He doesn't go wide. Big twist on the way out, but he's by. Toad is ahead of Unfolded. He needs to get away by 137 feet, roughly. Unfolded now runs right behind Toad, using his draft, and with the draft it should help the Dodge a little bit, negate Unfolded's straight line speed disadvantage. They can finish in this exact order, nose to tail, and Unfolded would still win this. Does Unfolded go for a move? Does he try and put any pressure on Toad? No, he actually brakes nice and early so he doesn't mess up the corner himself. The gap going to start opening up massively in Toad's favor. He needs to open up a 137-foot gap. Toad puts the power down out of the corner with no issue here. And look at that gap opening up. It's already at 110, 120 feet. It might be too much. There may just be too much. Unfolded closes in significantly, under braking though. To be within about 137 feet, and that's assuming Toad doesn't go off again. But Unfolded is now hemorrhaging time, and hemorrhaging it fast. Micro is still way too far back. The driver in the distance that have headlights, that is P1R Habit. He is not going to factor in for this. He is a lap down. That gap's already up to 170 feet. I think that's over. I think it's over. Just like in Stint 1, Unfolded just pushes his tires too far. Look at this tire life, 63%. And he needs to complete this lap, do another lap, and then part of a lap after that. There's just nothing he can do. He's asked for too much out of it. For EXR Unfolded, frustration, back-to-back, second place finishes by the looks of it. In the fight for third, Micro, he needs to be about 300 feet ahead of Pipes, I believe. I'm gonna calculate this exactly. Yeah, 306 feet ahead of Pipes, but Pipes is nowhere close. So Pipes is a distant fourth right now. He's honestly not that far ahead of Bradders at the moment. Pipes' tires are looking like not quite 50%, and Bradders, who is in the Chevy a little bit farther back, he is at 53%. So yeah, Pipes has that advantage pretty much in the bag. All right, this is the last full lap of the race. Toad has gone back in the lead. He's at 50% on that left front. He'll likely be at about 60% when this is over, so he has not pushed his tires to a ridiculous amount. For Unfolded, he is at 66%, so that tire gap has kind of stabilized out at about a 16% disadvantage against Unfolded, and the gap is just massively opening up here. I don't think Unfolded gets caught by Micro or Pipes here. And even if he gets caught by Micro, Unfolded has no distance penalty. Micro has distance penalty, so I think Unfolded can still get second here. But for two stints in a row, Unfolded is going to have to come home second. And is going to be the team that we believe will inherit the points lead, winning Stint 2 here. We want our Habit a lap down. Is Unfolded going to let Habit by? He's not doing it yet. If I was Unfolded, I would let Habit by so I could try and get a draft off of him. Going down the straights. Oh, Unfolded is wide coming out of the carousel. That's one of the best corners for the Dodge. He's now getting past there to really hammer home how bad his tires have gotten. And he still has to do the rest of this lap and part of another one. He's almost at 70%. It was a bold call. It was a bold strategy. But Unfolded will have to settle for back-to-back second-place results here at Road America. Toad has absolutely opened it up. The one good thing for Toad is that, assuming nothing crazy happens, he will still get another benefit for a stint with no distance penalties. A minute left now, as they are winding down to the end here at Road America. Again, we will not be covering the third stint here at Road America, and I do apologize for that. There are other obligations I do have. P1R Habit, NWR Hyphen, NWR Bradders, ESV Pipes, EXR Unfold. That's 5 different drivers set up to finish this race with no distance penalties. And NWR Shadow is set up to be the only driver with distance penalties over a 1/10 of a mile. He's at 1/8 of a mile exactly. So a very interesting event. As they come down to the line, come down to finish it off. 15 seconds left. Toad. It looked really close between himself, Unfolded, and Pipes. But Pipes and Unfolded did a big miscall on the strategy. As the clock ticks away, 4 seconds, 3, 2, 1. Time's up, over, plow! And your stint winner is NDL Toad, with EXR Unfolded coming home second. Third place, the NDL Micro. Fourth is ESV Pipes. Fifth is NWR Bradders. Sixth is NDL Daniel. And seventh is the Mercedes of VR Amarillas. I'll give you a slightly better look real quickly, and then I'll try to reach out and get some invites here in just a moment. But NDL Toad is your winner. Race results. There's your end results. 7th is ZR Chrysalid, and 8th is NWR Shadow. So again, 7 different manufacturers in the top 7 positions. We're going to take an ad break, and then we're going to try and interview our top finishers here at Road America. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Road America. I'm waiting to see if any of our top 5 finishers want to jump in and talk with us. Oh, yep, it looks like we're going to get one of them at least. Coming into the party right now is NWR Bradders. Bradders, can you hear me? All right, in the Xbox party, go ahead and include your audio if you can.
Yeah, I've done that.
All right, NWR Bradders, highest finishing Chevy at the end of the day. Very interesting day for you, fighting up near the front, but never really having what it took to fight for the win. What do you have to say about your run out here today?
I realised about halfway through the race that my pit strat, which I'd planned, wasn't going to work. So from then on, I was trying to sort of calculate a new strategy mid-race, which wasn't fun. I realised mediums would be quicker overall than pitting extra and doing softs. But I think by that point I'd lost out too much time. I think the people ahead of me, apart from Unfolded, had all done one less pit, and it just threw me out the cycle, unfortunately.
Yeah, it does seem like that seemed to derail the event, but you did have some really good fights out there. You were looking really punchy in the early stages of the race.
Yeah, I knew I just had to make up as much time at the start and try and hook on to that first four, which I had done until that first pit, and then I sort of lost touch with them a bit. And then I realised from that point my cycle was not going to be right, so I was trying to sort of amend it mid-race.
Well, you definitely put together a Herculean drive. Even though everything seemed to go wrong, you still brought home a 5th place finish. I do have to ask, who's going to be taking over this car in Stint 3?
So Stint 3 is going to be NWR Origin.
All right. Well, there's probably some meta joke about the Origin being the end of the race, but I'm not smart enough to make that. So, in any case, I do want to say, hey, thanks for jumping in and talking with us, Bradders. Very interesting race. Shame it couldn't have gone better for you, but still, all things considered, you're only about 0.8 of a mile off of the leaders, so you didn't lose too much time. And with Stint 3 also going to have rain in it as well, more than likely, I imagine that your result here is probably going to be the big heavy lifter for your team today. So good job out there.
Well, thank you very much.
Yep. Also, real quickly, I'm just going to try and reach out to NDL Micro one more time, because Micro just sent me a message. If we can get an invite with interview with Micro, that'd be nice, but we'll see. Oh, here we are. Yeah, coming in. Micro, can you hear me? All right. In the Xbox party, there should be an option to include your audio. Are you able to do that?
Here we go. Yeah. Hello.
All right. Coming in the party right now is NDL Micro. Micro, a win for your teammate in Stint 1 and a relatively decent 3rd place result here in Stint 2. What do you have to say about your run out here today?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I could have got unfolded if I'd made a fewer mistakes, but he has a lot of pace, so I don't feel bad about not catching him.
All right. When it comes to the overall championship, a win in the first stint today, a 3rd place result here, there's still a possibility that you guys could win this race and close up in the championship fight. I do have to ask, though, who's going to drive the Ferrari in Stint 3?
That's going to be Hot Dog closing it out for us.
All right. One other question I do have to ask. For the Ferraris, you guys seem to be the only cars on the track that, it doesn't matter if it's dry or wet, you are burning up the left rear tires faster than the front tires. Why is that? Is it a oddity with the Ferrari, or is it just the way that your team has chosen to set up the Ferrari for today's event?
Honestly, I would have expected the same thing for all the cars. I'm kind of surprised to hear that it's just ours that's doing that. I thought it was a characteristic of the track, but maybe it is the car.
Yeah, I've watched basically through the entire day, whatever number that you have on the left rear is basically the number that everyone else is having on the left front. And their number on the left front is your number on the left rear. Basically, just swap the two. That's what it's been like all day long for. And it's only the Ferrari. It was a little different in the wet. In the wet, everyone was burning up the left rear, but in the dry, you guys are the only ones burning up the left rear.
Interesting. It must be our tune. It is a bit on edge, but it's fast.
Yeah, well, I was a little bit curious about that, but I can understand being completely caught off guard by that. I've definitely been there as well. I do want to say, Micro, you did have a great run out there. You were one of 5 different people to lead laps as well, so good job at that. Thanks for jumping in and talking with us, mate.
Thank you very much, and great casting as always.
Thank you to Twitch also for not killing the cast mid-stint this time as well. With that in mind, I'll conclude my broadcast for SEC's P1R Enduro here for Road America today. In a little bit of time, I will be covering the PTG NASCAR race. I believe that's at Laguna Seca. It's at Laguna Seca or it's here at Road America. I'm not sure. If it's Road America, that'd be hilarious. But until next time, I've been your host for today's broadcast, Insanely 13. Thank you very much for joining us, everyone. Farewell and goodbye.